travel in Panama represented 14% of GDP last year and generated over 240,000 jobs all over the country. Furthermore, tourism has the potential to create inclusive and sustainable economic growth. From the manager of a hotel, a cashier at the mall, or an artisan in a small province, that is what tourism can generate for every destination. My name is Lorena Fábrega, Director of Business Development for PROMTUR Panamá. Our program today allows questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and at the end of both conferences. We will select as many as we can answer live, and we will take care of the rest afterwards. Without further ado, I'm happy to present Fernando Duque, Chairman of the Board. Fernando.
Thank you, Lorena. Let me just try to get the control here of the screen. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Good morning. We're all very excited to have such a large array of individual business leaders in Panama from the tourism area, as well as from the other areas in the country. I want to welcome to international guest speakers, Adam Sachs, founder and president of Tourism Economics, and Don Welsh, President CEO of Destination International. The reason that we have such a large gathering of business leaders in Panama is because, tourism contributes indirectly to almost 14% of our GDP. So the performance initiatives and overall the health of our industry are a concern to everyone as they generate an immediate impact into our economy, especially in these times of uncertainty in which we see that our world is going to be changing, and many of the businesses, and as we know them today, will have to migrate to other characteristics from here on. So I want to begin to explain to everyone, and especially our non-tourism related business leaders that accompany us today, about PROMTUR and DMO. Okay. Okay, and all in all, PROMTUR is basically the destination marketing organization in Panama. We are responsible for the international promotion and marketing of Panama as a tourism destination for all segments and products. Our vision is to be the principal contributor to transform Panama's leisure and meeting industry message and experience to drive economic development and increase impact for all communities in Panama. Our mission is to basically build a sustainable visitor economy by marketing Panama to the world to maximize economic impact and enhance the quality of life for Panamanians by being a world-class DMO. So what is the difference between the Panamanian Tourism Authority, the ATP, and PROMTUR, the DMO? Basically, the Tourism Authority is responsible for the management and the planning of the destination. As to PROMTUR is basically the international marketing and sales. So that's basically what we do. We work all together. It's an engine that has to have all the three aspects together in order to be efficient and to basically carry on our mission, as we know. The key roles that we have, basically, we can see in this wheel that we have here today, is basically as follows. We have one of the most important aspects, basically, the business intelligence. The business intelligence, in this age of data analytics, we must consider the growing availability of marketing data. These are the marketing analytics used to measure the performance of our marketing initiatives. Why is this important? We provide the database decision-making in marketing needed because they will improve the impact of our marketing campaigns by using high-quality data from multiple sources and meaningful KPIs in the analytics. This is something new in our industry, which basically has never been done before in a scientific manner. Also, we have the another aspect, the leisure sales, which is focused on international wholesalers management, recreation, entertainment, sports, and FIT, or free independent travelers. Continuing with the aspects, we have the business and meeting sales, which are focused on congresses, conventions, incentives, and group sales. Also, we have the content. The content basically is all the written content, photos, and videos used for all campaigns. We have the strategic partnerships also with international organizations to develop strong relations with the key actors in the tourism industry. For example, I can mention only a few, but so Apple Leisure Group, TUI, Delta Vacations, Marketing Challenges, etc. Also, we have our digital strategy. Digital strategy basically is the development of consistent strategy in all social media platforms. Also the CRM and the website design, which is a customer relationship management platform, and also the organization-wide management model based on customer satisfaction. International PR basically takes care of all the press trips and agency of record and international communication that needs to happen. And all these key aspects together is what basically defines our role and the mission that we have been given to achieve. But next to this, I want to welcome again our Adam Sachs and Don Welsh, and I will let Lorena do the introductions of our very fine speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. We are so pleased to have tourism world leaders supporting us today. Adam Sachs is the founder and president of Tourism Economics, an Oxford economics company dedicated to understanding the relationship between travel and the economy. For more than 2 decades, Adam has worked with destinations, industry associations, and companies around the world in the areas of opportunity and risk assessments, policy analysis, and economic impact. Adam's work has provided the foundation for billions of dollars in capital investment decisions by hotel companies, developers, and investors. Destination marketing organizations around the world rely on tourism economics data and scenario models to inform global marketing investment allocations. Adam also supports trade associations in the aviation, hotel, and broader travel arena with forecasts widely considered to be an industry standard. And by examining the economic merits of travel facilitation, taxation, and tourism promotion initiatives, Adam's work has influenced critical government policies. He is an authority on measuring the economic impact of visitor activity and has analyzed the impacts of cruising, gaming, timeshare, hotel, attractions, and destination marketing return on investment. Adam regularly presents to corporate strategic planning teams on the threats and opportunities facing their businesses and is a member of the U.S. Department of Commerce Travel and Tourism Advisory Board. It is my privilege to introduce Adam Sachs.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's good to be with all of you, and these are exciting times for tourism in Panama as you embark on a new phase of marketing. And I'm going to share some thoughts with you today on why destination marketing is absolutely critical to the success of not just the tourism industry in Panama, but the entire economy of Panama. As was shared, of course, the tourism industry is a large part of the Panama economy. But by marketing the destination, you can actually raise the tide of the economy across the entirety of the economic spectrum in Panama. Now, let me start with this thought that destination promotion, the destination marketing is a unique need for destinations. And there are 2 reasons for this. The first reason is that the average traveler is not motivated initially by a particular property or even a particular experience. It is the entirety of the destination that motivates a trip. And a trip to Panama is motivated by the brand and the experience, the dream of what Panama represents. Well, in order then to motivate that traveler, you need an organization that can build that brand, that can build that dream and that idea in the mind of the traveler that will then motivate them. Only a destination marketing organization can do this. A single property is not capable of doing it because a single property or even a single tour does not represent the whole of the experience, and it can't represent the brand of a destination, which is necessary, which is why a destination marketing organization is essential. Secondly, destination marketing requires scale. It requires resources and funds. And again, that is where a destination marketing organization can bring together resources for the entire industry and support an industry by building out the websites and the media and the creative and all of the different marketing infrastructure that is required in order to market a destination. Only a destination marketing organization can fulfill these roles and really solve these challenges for a destination. Now, I'm going to share with you some examples and some case studies. Some of them are good case studies and some of them are bad case studies, but I hope all of them help to inform you as to where you should go from here. So the first example I'm going to share with you is from San Diego. So San Diego has a tourism marketing district that's funded by hotel taxes. And it's been a very successful DMO until 2013. In January of 2013, the San Diego Tourism Authority was actually defunded. It lost all of its funding because of a legal challenge to its funding. It went dark. There was no more marketing, no more sales for almost the entirety of 2013. And what we saw was that immediately growth began to slow and San Diego began to lose market share to its competitors. Well, they solved the problem with the legal challenge and they refunded the San Diego Tourism Authority. And they immediately began to recover market share and perform on par with how they performed before they were defunded. So there's a clear cause and effect there on funding. Another example, and this would be a bad case study, is for the state of Illinois. In 2016, due to a budget impasse, there was no budget for the state of Illinois for months. The state tourism office lost all funding. Not only that, but the city level tourism offices that received funding through the state, they also lost their funding. Well, what happened in 2016? Well, the state of Illinois in 2015 was the most visited Midwest state. And in 1 year, it dropped from first to third. And inquiries about travel to Illinois fell 70% for the year. And so, again, a clear cause and effect. Now, Michigan is a positive case study. You can see that on the left-hand side, the tourism office for the state of Michigan, they, in 2006, they had a budget of 16 million. Well, they doubled that to 33 million in 2014. And they also doubled their advertising budget within that. So that's what you see on the left-hand side. Between 2006 and 2014, doubling the budget for destination marketing. Well, what happened? Well, Michigan went on an absolute success story over that period of time, adding 1.2 billion of new out-of-state visitor spending every single year, reaching a peak of 1.2 billion. Their campaigns, which they call the Pure Michigan campaign, generated 22 million out-of-state trips and had a return on investment of nearly $5 in state taxes for every dollar of funding into Pure Michigan. So it was a huge success once they fully funded and adequately funded the program for destination marketing. Here is a bad case study, Colorado. They actually took away their funding in 1993. The Colorado Tourism Office in 1993 lost all their funding. Within 2 years, they lost 30% of their U.S. visitor market share. Now, then they were refunded in 2003 and actually experienced another, they got 5.3 million additional visitors due to their campaigns that year. And they saw a return on investment of every dollar that they invested of that new money in destination marketing, that returned $140 in visitor spending. Pennsylvania, which is where I am right now, cut their funding. You can see on the left-hand side significantly. They had a funding level for destination marketing around $36 million in the late 2000s. Well, they cut that substantially to just a few $1,000,000 and then $7 million in 2014, 2015. What happened? Well, Pennsylvania lost market share as well. So their overnight trips, they had 18% of the market. Well, it went down to 15%. Of day trips, they had 23%, went down to 19%. So that leads us to this question: what is the story for Panama? Well, as many of you who are in the tourism industry may know, that you've had some strong performance in as you look back into 2012, 2013, 2014, you reached a peak in overnight international visitors to the country in 2015 of 2.1 million visitors, and have steadily lost the volume of international visitors over the last 5 years, reaching around 1.8 million visitors in 2019. So right now, you're in the midst of a story where Panama has begun to underperform the region. Now, what do we do? What do we recommend as an international organization who advises destination marketing organizations? Well, we certainly recommend what you're doing right now, which is investing in the funding for destination marketing so that you can become one of the success case stories that we're able to change the curve from going down to going up. Now, what you have the potential to do in destination marketing is not only change the curve for tourism, but you have the potential to bend the curve upward for the entire Panama economy. The reason is that destination marketing, we have found to improve economic development even in unrelated sectors to tourism. We have found that destination marketing has a catalytic role. That is, it serves as an engine to an entire economy. It does it through 4 different channels. The first is that destination marketing builds transportation networks. The second is that it raises the quality of life in a destination, making it more livable and more attractive to investors. The third is that it raises the entire destination profile, not only to visitors, but to investors. And then the fourth is that destination marketing attracts events and trade shows and conventions that also make a place more attractive for investment. Let me walk you through each of these quickly to illustrate why destination marketing is so important in each of these categories. The first, as I mentioned, is building transportation networks. When you build your tourism industry, you are adding air access, capacity, and access more routes to more places, more frequency, and lower fares. What does this do? It makes Panama more attractive to investors who need air access for moving both people and goods. The economic development head for the state of Louisiana said that air service is so important to corporate investment and location decisions. And it's one of tourism's most significant contributions, since the levels of air service at New Orleans far exceed what local demand could support. Local demand in Panama is only going to generate so much air service. But by adding tourism, you're generating more air service and then making a place more attractive to investors. The second is raising the destination profile. Destination marketing in Panama will bring more people into contact and build awareness for the destination and the image of Panama. That's going to help not only visitors, but it'll help economic development. Here are some quotes from economic development heads who we talked to about this topic. And these people are not, their mandate is not tourism, it's economic development. But here's what World Business Chicago Economic Development said. They said that tourists are familiar with New York and San Francisco and Los Angeles, but not as familiar with Chicago. So every tourist that comes through here is a potential business lead for economic development. Economic development head for Asheville said, as we talk to prospects, they actually mentioned past visits and good experiences, and this is our open door for economic development. And then the head of Phoenix puts it this way: if we do it right, the ideal brand will transcend the visitor market and support all of economic development. So the potential for Panama to market the destination of tourists also will help to build economic development in other areas of the economy. We see this in many places around the country in the US. Metro Denver is a great example. Their brand for tourism has actually been adopted by economic development, because the same things that make Denver attractive to visitors is what makes Denver attractive to investors. Also, raising the destination profile is interesting. There's a survey that Economic Development Consultant Development Council International, they do it every year, and they found that 17% of executives who have site selection responsibilities say that their perceptions of an area's business climate were influenced by leisure travel, and that 42% reported an influence by business travel. It's why, again, the head of economic development in Chicago says you can never expose people enough. Once they've come, we've got them. And then Cleveland's economic development head says, as Positively Cleveland, which is their destination marketing organization, as they push their campaigns, people get the message that Cleveland is cool, and as they visit, they experience the reality. Destination marketing is the open door to economic development. Pure Michigan is a great example of this, because while it was developed as a tourism campaign, again, it's been adopted for economic development, whether it's manufacturing or agriculture or even making beer. All of these things have become part of the Pure Michigan umbrella of marketing the state. We found through surveys that people that have been exposed to campaigns have a much better perception of a place, even in things that are unrelated to tourism. This is an area out in the Lake Erie Shores region of Ohio, and they found that people that were aware of their tourism marketing campaign, that's the dark blue bars, had a much higher perception of the destination, not only as a tourism destination, but as a place to start a career or a business or retire or purchase a vacation home or live. A lift of over 100%, double the rate of perception in each of these categories if they had seen the campaign. And you can see how these campaigns have such a significant impact, well over and above the impact on tourism. It's why Phoenix, head of their CVB, says our economic development office doesn't have to fly to all these places around the world because people are coming here for trade shows and events. When you bring in trade shows, conventions, incentive travel, you're exposing visitors to the best of what Panama has to offer. And that then becomes a platform for economic development. And then the last channel that I'll mention is raising the quality of life. Visitors to Panama help to support the culture, the amenities, the attractions, the restaurants that not only make a place great to visit, but also make it a great place to live. It's why we've seen many destinations win economic development deals because of the infrastructure and the attractions that tourism support. 9 million visitors came to Asheville last year, and they support an amenity base which provides a desirable lifestyle that then our population would support alone. It's, again, Chicago's head of economic development says it very succinctly. Traveler attractions are the same reason that CEOs choose a place to invest in. So as you build your travel economy, you build your broader economy. All right, so what does this mean? I'm going to just share a few closing thoughts with you. The first is that you have a great opportunity because even with the current crisis, what's happening in terms of the Uber trend in travel is that people are spending more and more on travel over time. And this will continue once the coronavirus crisis is behind us. Consumer spending on lodging among US residents increased 271% since 1980, while overall GDP per capita only increased 91%. The spending on travel is increasing at a rate of 3 times the rate of growth of the overall economy in this sense. And the growth prospects for the next 10 years are very good. When we look at the number of households in the US, that are going to earn more than $100,000 over the next decade. We find there are going to be about 10 million additional households in the U.S. earning $100,000 or more over the next 10 years. So the market is growing. You have the opportunity to compete within the existing market, but also keep in mind that the pie itself is growing. And there's a massive increase as incomes continue to rise for you to attract that growing traveler market to Panama. I'm going to share with you one last case study, and I think it struck me as one of the more relevant ones. Because Bermuda, if you look at just the pink bars, you can see what was happening in 2010, 2011, 12, 13, 14. Overnight arrivals to Bermuda fell almost in every single year, and a significant decline. If you index to 2010, about a 15% decline in visits to Bermuda. Meanwhile, the region was growing strongly. So clearly Bermuda was doing something wrong. Well, in 2015, they did something right. They established the Bermuda Tourism Authority and funded it in a substantial way. And this organization is private sector, but public funded, and significant turnaround story, right? You can see that they got to work in 2015, began to see the results in 2016, and year after year success, recovered to where its prior levels and then even exceeded those, even as the region began to suffer in 2017 and 2018. Bermuda continued to succeed because of destination marketing. So I'll leave you with this last picture, which is what's happened with Panama in terms of market share. And we used our global travel database to run this data for you today. You can see that Panama's share of Central American overnight international visits peaked in 2015 at about 21% of the Central American region. It has steadily fallen over the last 5 years to 16% in 2019. If I look at Panama on the right-hand axis as a share of all of Latin America, including the Caribbean, the same exact story, falling from 3.2% of that broader region, including all of Latin America, South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, down to 2.4%. So now is the time to change the storyline, and it's the opportunity that you have now with PROMTUR. So thank you very much for having me with you today.
Adam, thank you very much. This is relevant information for us, and we appreciate you spending the time with us to share your knowledge and all of your experience. Before proceeding with our next conference, I'm going to remind you that if you want to ask any questions, you can do so at the bottom of the screen. You have a Q&A section. You can ask the questions there by chat, and at the end of the conference, we will try to answer as many as possible live, and then we can answer the rest afterwards. Next, I'm honored to present Mr. Don Welsh, President and CEO of Destinations International. A seasoned tourism executive with more than 35 years of experience in the industry. Don Welsh serves as the President and CEO of Destinations International, and since joining the association in March 2016, Welsh has implemented a strategic realignment for the association through a renewed commitment to focus on member needs, to deliver the resources members have determined to be essential to the success of their organizations. Prior to joining Destinations International, Welsh served as the President and CEO of Choose Chicago. Welsh also held the CEO position at the Indianapolis Convention and Visitors Association and the Seattle Convention and Visitors Bureau. Prior to joining the destination marketing industry, Welsh served as Senior Vice President for Westin Hotels at its corporate headquarters, and has also had senior leadership positions in sales and marketing for Westin Hotels and Resorts, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, and the MGM Grand Hotel Casino in Las Vegas. With you, Mr. Don Welsh.
Well, thank you, Lorena, for that very kind introduction. You can tell I'm a lot older than Adam just by that introduction of my experience, but it's great to be with you on this Friday. I'm joining you from Washington, D.C., We would be getting ready. I'd be joining you from Chicago under normal circumstances, but I'm with you in Washington, D.C. today as we get ready for our annual convention next week that will be done virtually. And I can't tell you how thrilled we are with the opportunity of potentially working much deeper with Panama. So thank you for this opportunity. You know, it's always a pleasure to follow Adam. He's very humbling as well, by the way. Not only is he's a brilliant economist, but he's a great rock star as well, in all seriousness. But, you know, we've gotten to know Adam over the years when he created with us a product called the Event Impact Calculator. And now that has sort of become the global standard of measurement. And I'm pleased to say that is a product now that's around the world. We can talk about that. But Fernando, thank you. It's nice to see you actually in person. Last time I joined you, I was on a phone call, but nice to be with you today. And I really applaud the leadership and the process that you have embarked on with this very dedicated group of people to take their time to understand a little bit about an industry that, as you said, represents 14% of the GDP of Panama. So thank you. A little bit about us, and then we'll sort of just make this a discussion, but we're fortunate. We have both an association and a foundation. The foundation is simply in place to generate funds to support the work of the association, and we'll talk about some of those in a second. Next, please. You know, our mission is pretty simple. We have, we've come together in the last 4.5 years, and our goal is one thing, and that is we empower our members so their destinations excel. And technically right now, the good fortune is we have over 600 members, destination organizations in 13 countries. And we used to have about 4 countries that we work with. So we had a very defined strategic mission to open up what was really a US-centric organization for years and become much more global in our thinking. And we're just so thrilled about working with Panama. This represents about 6,000 professionals. So people such as Lorraine and others, it's not all the people that work in these organizations, but the people that really have focus on some of the things we'll talk about in a second. And our focus is really, our vision is quite myopic. It is more or less our members essential to the success of their destination. You heard it from Lorraine, you've heard it from Fernando, and you certainly just heard it from Adam. Our mission is really to empower our members, and our value proposition all brings it back to more or less our 4 core pillars. And they are community. As I said, we're fortunate we work in a global space. So our community keeps getting bigger and bigger. But the one thing that is very consistent is the fact that the men and women who work in destinations are responsible for the development of their brands and their communities. And as you heard from Adam, and I'll give you some examples when I worked in Chicago specifically, how that really did from a business standpoint all come together through either tourism or conventions and meetings and others. Advocacy has become a critical buzzword probably in the last 10 years. And advocacy simply means that that people that may not be necessarily familiar with the tourism industry, they become familiar with it. So elected leaders and talking to one another in a continuing change of metrics and responsibility. And I know that, Fernando, you live with the philosophy of what gets measured gets done. And I believe advocacy, then supported by research, that all of our members can use, and it's real time, it's fluid. You know, I will say right now that this pandemic has been the equalizer for many. For those of us who came out of other destinations or other industries, we had a good solid decade run of really great performance. And now that we've fallen into this, the research we have from all of our partners will give the tourism organizations the tools and resources they need to be successful. And what I love about the partnership with Panama is that you've already looked at research and the economic impact, and also now you're focused on education. And I'm pleased that we have the leading program. It's been in place for years called CDME, and it is really the industry's global standard for education. And it allows leaders and organizations to actually become accredited, but we also have a lot of online learning so people can learn at various stages of their career. So I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but why are tourism organizations important? And technically, next please. They really, they set the stage for communities. You heard Adam talk about the economic piece, But I know we wanted to shift today in terms of how you look at potentially structuring Panama. These are some of my beliefs in terms of what will make Panama successful. And I think I told you this on the last call, Fernando, that, you know, I've had the good fortune. I've worked, started in the airline side, spent multiple years with Westin Hotels and Resorts corporate, Ritz-Carlton corporate, and MGM, and now what I do here in this world. So I've traveled the world, and there's very few places left on my bucket list that I wanted to get to, and one is Panama. I've been a huge fan of watching what Panama means to our society from a transportation hub and network, and seeing some of the things I've seen in the last 60, 90 days really want to make me visit beyond that. So I say right now there's this opportunity that Adam talked about in terms of where you were versus where you are now. I think with the right type of leadership structure, Panama can get to where you want it to be. And so these are some of the things I've seen, what I'm going to say successful CEO skills that the board may want to consider. And number one, it is somebody with proven tourism industry experience, somebody that really can look at not only Latin America, but the world in general, and sort of feel very comfortable in that space and understand that Panama is a unique destination where it has business, leisure, and meetings and events. And some are a little bit more myopic on maybe leisure. I think you've got that opportunity. So I think that's going to be important. I think a team builder, and I'll get to some examples in a second. What we've sort of found out when you're speaking with one voice is whoever's going to be in that role is going to be really the ambassador for the brand, both within Panama and certainly when he or she are outside the country to speak on behalf of what's taking place there. One of the things that when I was in Chicago, before getting there a few years ago, before this job, there were multiple organizations within the city of Chicago. I happened to get there with a very forward-thinking mayor, a guy named Rahm Emanuel, and we created a new organization and we collapsed it down to one. So in the eyes of the different audiences, whether it was local meeting planners, the tourism organization, there was an owner of the brand with one single voice. And we've seen destinations where there's multiple voices and it adds confusion. And then clearly somebody who's passionate and resilient are also skills that really, I believe, in this day and age. What we find with the pandemic now, it is not going to be a quick recovery. It's going to be slow. It's going to be pragmatic. It's going to be marginal gains, I think, for the next 2 or 3 years. And Adam's data supports this. And then hopefully in 22 or 23. So I believe the tough decisions and strategic decisions you're making now will serve you very well as you go forward. Next, please. I'll give you some examples. I worked in 3 places when I got out of the hotel industry. Number one, I had the chance to be the president and CEO of Visit Seattle. I was there for 5 years. We created this organization. Then I moved on to Indianapolis, and I'll explain to you all 3. I was there for 2.5 years, and I've sort of discovered what I like is when they're building a brand and when things are coming together or they need to be fixed. And then I spent 5 years in Chicago. And here's the one thing from now this job dealing with multiple members around the world, there's really 3 things to me that have sort of come together in terms of what resonates for a successful destination. And number one are these, what is a very simple triangle. And I see what you're doing, Fernando, to try to make sure this happens. Because I know right now, and I'll give you some examples when these triangles don't connect. Number one, I think the tourism industry has always done a really good job of talking to ourselves. You know, hoteliers and restaurants and the attractions, we do really well talking to ourselves. But in destinations that I see that are successful, they have a great partnership with the elected leaders. They understand that at the end of the day, the elected leaders have the responsibility on behalf of the citizens of their community to make sure that brand is articulated in the manner that's important and also that they can resonate with. But the group at the top is very important. These are the people that, to some degree, are not involved in our industry. Many of the people on the call that I was told, you know, you are the community leaders in Panama. And for you to understand the reason why 14% of the GDP is tied to this industry, I think is super critical. So, and I'll tell you where this didn't work. This worked extremely well in Chicago. And we went from 42 million visitors to 52 million visitors in my 5 years with Mayor Emanuel. It worked extremely well in Indianapolis because everybody was aligned there, including one of the greatest sports commissions probably in the United States, maybe the top in probably North America. But this did not exist in Seattle. And those of you who've been following the news in Seattle lately, it probably wouldn't surprise you. The tourism industry did well, but there was a limited connection between the civic community, and I must tell you, there was very little connection with the elected leaders. And it was always like pushing a rock up a hill to get the elected leaders to understand the value of investment and their understanding and commitment to the tourism and meetings industry in Seattle. And I'm pleased to say they've done well regardless, but I would point out that of the 3 cities I've worked in multiple years, 2 really got it and 1 didn't. And I think right now anything you can do to engage all 3 stakeholders would be critically important. I don't want to oversimplify it. You've heard from Adam. This is going to be a recovery, but I do think you have this unique opportunity in time, Fernando, to really be extremely strategic, identify the right leader. I know we're going to talk about destinations that stand out. Ironically, Adam and I did not compare notes, but a couple of the destinations in the US that really stand out, that live and breathe this daily, and it's sort of gone beyond just the tourism piece, but it's filtered into economic development. One is Denver, visit Denver. And the other one, and there's many, by the way, but the other one that stands out is Columbus, Ohio. And then closer to you, I've been extremely impressed with the work that ProColumbia has done with their coordinated effort between government and the private sector. So this can be done, but I so applaud you all taking the time to do this on the front end rather than try to do it on the back end. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Don. And thanks again, Adam, for sharing, both of you, your knowledge and experience with successful tourism destinations. And now we're ready to answer some of the questions gathered. I'm going to begin with one for Adam. What variables are considered in the event impact calculator? Or I don't know, Don, either one I think can answer this question.
I'll let Adam take a shot at it, and I'll pick it up since he was one of the ones who actually wrote it and how this is expanded. So Adam, you want to take a first stab at it?
Yeah, of course, I'd be glad to. So the event impact calculator is designed to measure the economic value of trade shows, conventions, or festivals, or sporting events. And what it allows a destination to do is measure how much that event brings in terms of visitor spending, and also how much that generates in terms of taxes and how many jobs it supports. The key inputs are the number of attendees to that event, the duration to the event, and the type of the event. Now, if you can go further to understand how many of those visitors are overnight, how many of them are international, and how many are domestic, that makes the results more accurate. But those are the key inputs into the event impact calculator. It then produces a report that measures the full economic value of that event over the course of its schedule.
Thank you, Adam. And the good news is Panama is going to have the impact calculator soon enough. We have another question. Are there trends with regards to marketing a destination that have proven better than others? For example, private versus public. In your experience, what trends have you seen what works better for a marketing destination organization?
I think if you look at really the successful, and there are many, I pointed out 2 or 3 destinations today, but clearly, the marketing responsibilities from the role of a CMO right now have shifted dramatically in the last few years. And I think clearly the necessity of really having a solid social media strategy must be in place. I believe that you need to look at all the market segments that are relevant to a destination. Clearly, there's got to be a measurable ROI in terms of what's coming in. The greatest thing now in the social media space, you get that instantly in terms of where you make the investment with what comes back. But I would say the ones that have done this have really gone back and done the work in the community to make sure that they are articulating the true assets of that community, to make sure you get stakeholder engagement. I didn't mention it earlier, but we have a program that we've been working for the last 2.5 years called the Community Shared Value. And community shared value is to make sure that somehow all the key stakeholders, whether there's neighborhoods, whether there's all the different essential players, restaurants, attractions, people that are going to be delivering the promise of the destination, they have to usually develop and buy into the brand before the brand gets launched. So it's got to be genuine and authentic.
Thank you, Don. We have many questions. I'm going to go with, besides marketing efforts to create a strong destination, what are the best practices specifically for Congress and conventions? Sponsorships, local initiatives involving local leaders? What would you say that would be a best practice for the meetings and events?
Adam, you want to take a shot at the first one?
I'll start, Don, but you have experience selling events, so I'm going to defer to you for the substance. But we have seen our clients, the ones that are successful on the Congress and trade shows, it's a holistic approach where they're, on the one hand, they're promoting the entirety of the destination, but they're also going directly after meeting planners and aggressive sales tactics to bring specific events in that are specifically well suited to a destination. There are many destinations in the early stage of development that are involved in supplying incentives, or what are often called bid fees, for an event to incentivize them to come to a destination. That is part of the game in terms of competing in many cases. But in all cases, it's a holistic effort of promoting the destination, but also going after individual meeting planners aggressively. Don?
I'll pick up on that as also. When I worked in Chicago, McCormick Place is 2.5 million square feet of space, so there was a tremendous amount of effort. I believe that if you look at the importance of the meetings and events industry, as Adam just articulated, that it's the only, and by the way, with this pandemic, it has been so impactful to destinations. Because if you really look at what makes up how a city fills with the different market segments, the one we always talk about at the base of the pyramid are meetings and events, because they're the only segment of business where when people are coming, you have the intended number of room nights they plan on consuming, if they're going to be in a building, a convention facility, the space they're going to consume. Every other market segment becomes then speculative. The business traveler could be impacted by their company from a profit standpoint. It could be impacted from a leisure standpoint based on the economic conditions or natural disasters in a city or a country. So the one market segment that is vital and it's predictable in a destination, whether it's a single hotel booking, multiple hotel bookings, are meetings. And I believe that, as I said earlier, there's a lot of people that know of Panama, but I think there's an opportunity where people now are beginning to look outside of their traditional destinations. Meeting planners now beginning to look beyond that, because what will stay constant after this pandemic passes? The days of just going back to face-to-face, unfortunately, I think will always be a combination of face-to-face and hybrid, such as we're doing today. So I think it again gives Panama another opportunity, but I think it's a market segment that's so worthy of the investment.
Thank you, Don. The next question is one that I think every country and every company is faced with, especially at these times. Whenever there are budget cuts, advertising goes first. Should it be the same for tourism, and why?
Oh, this is one of the topics that I speak about regularly. It's the last thing that should be cut. And let me explain why. There are a lot of different things that governments spend money on. Very few of them have a measurable return on investment. Tourism promotion has historically and consistently generated a return on investment. So while there are many worthy things for government programs, from a fiscal standpoint, to invest, or actually to take away funding from destination marketing, only makes your fiscal situation worse. It doesn't actually improve it because you lose the returns that exceed the cost of that investment. You know, in the U.S. right now, we're talking through industry associations, talking to the U.S. government about an incentive plan that would involve a tax incentive for travel in the U.S. And we're making the case that this is one of the most significant potential boosts to the U.S. economy. It's actually much better than a stimulus check because a stimulus check to someone, they may or may not spend. But if it goes toward a travel incentive that they have to travel in order to spend, it automatically generates economic output in the U.S. economy. And so, so my recommendation always and loudly is don't cut destination marketing if your goal is to improve your fiscal situation. You will, in most cases, only make it worse if you cut destination marketing funding.
And by the way, just to piggyback on what Adam said, there's countless examples, particularly we always look at the Colorado model, that when funding was cut by the state of Colorado, literally it was almost a decade recovery before they got back. So it's usually a little bit of a lag time, and you may not feel it initially, but your time of recovery being out of market is so critical. And I couldn't agree more with what Adam said.
Yeah, and you look at the upside scenarios of what happened in Bermuda when they doubled down, created the Bermuda Tourism Authority. That investment's been worth every penny to them and to the industry. And so you can look at it both, the negative side, but also the positive side. And I think it's a very, very strong case.
Thank you both. Another question is, how can or how should industry leaders work or support their DMO? How can we work together? What do you see the relationship? How do you see that relationship working?
I'll take a stab at it. I'll go back to my triangle chart, which is really a simplistic way of saying, whoever steps into this position really has to be the brand ambassador, and they need to understand the objectives of all the different stakeholders. It just needs to be somebody who I believe can come in with a level of experience, who has maybe done it before in other parts of the country, in other parts of the world. They can walk in and understand the unique opportunity in Panama. The resources seem to be there. Certainly the product is there. And I believe the messaging is going to be critical from a marketing standpoint, as well as then looking at all the different sectors that will benefit from it. But I really do think you're at that foundational point that's going to really get back to the development that will come from the experienced leadership that will go into that role, and how he or she will build their team with certainly the support of the board.
Yeah, I agree, Don. And the only thing that I would add to that is, in terms of actual marketing tactics, the industry and PROMTUR Panama will be successful as you collaborate. And so the brands that PROMTUR Panama develops, if they can be adopted by the industry and amplified by the industry using them, that can be very effective. This is what has made the I Love New York campaign so successful, is that while it was developed by the DMO, the entire industry adopted it and amplified it, and it became the well-known brand because they collaborated. And then there are opportunities as well as PROMTUR develops certain marketing platforms for you to work together, industry and DMO, to develop campaigns, to participate in specific calls to action for visitors for different experiences. And so Brand USA in the US is a great example of this. So Brand USA was founded now 8 years ago as the destination marketing organization for the United States. Before that, the US did not have a DMO and lost market share as a result. But Brand USA, what has made them so successful over the last 8 years is that they are truly a partnership with the industry. And so they work hand in hand with their industry partners to develop campaigns and to drive business to their partners. And so that collaboration, I think, will be a big part of your success.
Thank you, Adam. You wanted to add something, Don?
I just want to add one thing. I know we're probably getting close on time, and I was thinking about, in addition to some of the destinations I mentioned, but to pick up on what Adam just said, I've seen a real transformation recently in Toronto, and I was also thinking about the parallel of Panama. There's a new CEO that just went into Toronto probably 6 months ago. Somebody who's been very active with us on our board, a gentleman by the name of Scott Beck. Scott is a big picture marketing strategist, extremely engaged in the industry, passionately committed to the industry, not just where he was in Salt Lake City for years, but I've seen the impact that Scott has made in the city of Toronto in really the first 60 or 90 days. And from that 60 or 90 days, there's been total engagement with stakeholders. There has been a brand new name that's coming out for the Toronto Tourism Organization. And it just sort of gets back to somebody that will understand the uniqueness of the opportunity, where they go, irrespective if it's cross-border, and the assets that destination has. But somehow somebody coming in with an established track record, I just think is so critical to talk about, to execute some of the things that Adam and I have talked about and what you've all talked about prior to this.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. We're almost at the end. We have another interesting question. How important is it to be independent, for the DMO to be independent from government and government changes?
I'll take a stab at that, and then Adam can pick up on it as well. But, you know, because I've worked in places where there has been the autonomy. I think anybody in a successful destination organization right now has the autonomy to do their job. And I realize that we all have engagement from key stakeholders, particularly when funding's involved. But I think we've also seen examples where there is, and I'll use Mexico is a perfect example. I said this to Fernando in the last call. You know, Mexico established over decades a very respected, established group of offices around the world to represent Mexico. And literally overnight, when the new president came in, he shut down all the tourism offices. And I will tell you right now, if you look at the impact that has had on the Mexican destinations, it has been catastrophic in terms of business from Europe and the US and Canada, key markets for there. And that really had to do with a federal change at the president level, but we've also seen that when there is a tie to the tourism organization to local government and there's a change of administration, you go back to square one, and we've seen that in Puerto Rico, we've seen that elsewhere, but it is something whatever you can build into the autonomy of this organization, but accountable, it's something that I think would serve Panama well. Yeah,
it's autonomy, and it's also stability. It's very difficult to execute a 5-year plan if you're not sure what your budget will be in 2 years. And this is one of the problems that particularly state tourism offices and also national tourism offices have among our clients around the world. And so the stability of a funding source and a marketing strategy that can then be built over a period of time, I think is just essential. And that allows you to think just beyond just the first year, which is important, particularly at the beginning. But with that, accountability is a big part of it. And being able to show results is, that's going to be a key part of the success of the DMO. If you can show that what you're doing is working, then you're able to make that case and go from strength to strength. Absolutely, absolutely.
I just want to close the conference by thanking you again, Adam and Don. It's really been a privilege. I don't know, Fernando, if you want to add something else before I close. Please turn your mic on, Fernando.
On mute. There you go. Don, Adam, I can't thank you enough, both of you, for sharing this time with us. It's very important for the industry to have knowledge at first hand of what's happening outside. What are the best practices? What are the experiences that have happened all over? We are starting a new project, which is our DMO PROMTUR. And of course, there's a lot of variables that we need to analyze. And of course, knowing what has happened, the experience that has other people have gone through outside, and whether their plans for the near future based on all the data analytics and everything that your companies bring into the equation is very important for all of us. To all the other attendees, I wanted to say that this is one of the first of series of different forums that we're going to be holding for the industry. It is important for all of us to be educated on what's happening, what are the best practices with all the industry leaders that we can reach, and to have them share their insights with us. Don, Adam, thank you very much. And again, spending the time with us, and hopefully we will be working together very soon once we solve the legal work with the contract, which we've been looking forward to finalizing. But I'm sure that it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to have you both on board and working very close with us in PROMTUR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando. We wish you all well.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. And just the last quote by John A. Shedd: "A ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. May we soon sail again." Thank you all, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listo.